Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to go straight into it. A lot of people are asking me, how do I build a SaaS product? How do I avoid failure? How do I just get started? Where do I start? How do I turn my idea into a startup? These are all questions that I'm being asked on a daily basis. So many people are messaging me on LinkedIn. It's not surprising. There were 46,000 startups, I think, that launched in 2023. But unfortunately, 9 out of 10 startups fail. And that is a massive, massive number. And it still to this day astonishes me that that is the case and that's what's happening. And me and my team, we're on a mission to change those statistics. It shouldn't be that way. Out of 46,000 startups, 90% of those startups are going to fail within normally year 2 to 5. So it can feel really disheartening as well because you put so much time and energy into it. But here's what I think. I've been doing this 15 years now. I've had my own startups, I've failed, and I've also got my own startup. I also have invested interest and equity in an e-commerce brand that we scaled from 0 to 1 million in annual recurring revenue, all without investment. And here's my key thoughts and takeaway is that guesswork and gut feelings is one of the key reasons startups fail. And a lot of the time when people are bootstrapping or they don't have enough funds or they have limited funds, they feel, it's not always true, they feel like they can't get all the answers that they need. So what do? They end up putting their energy into certain things and trying to, focus in on pain points, but actually pain points are something that comes down the line, believe it or not. And it can feel really stressful. It can feel really overwhelming. It can be confusing. And I just want to say that I've been here so many times before wondering how am I going to pay my rent. I remember actually staying in one weekend because literally my account was overdrawn by about £3,000 and I had no money and my rent was coming up. And I was like, I can't go out and spend more money on my credit card. I was in my early 20s at this point. So it was quite a hard thing for me to do to stay in. But I realised that putting the graft in and figuring all of this out. So I've spent 15 years figuring this out and I don't want you to go through that many years just to become successful. And there is an easier way to do this. You don't have to worry anymore. And for me, it comes down to strategy. You need a strategy, you need a plan, and you need somebody to guide you through it. Because not knowing where to start can feel really stressful. And if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to be stuck in motion all the time, every day. And I don't know if you can resonate with that, but being stuck in motion is sort of feeling like you're constantly busy doing, but you don't feel like you're taking action or anything's getting done. And we have to actually put a time frame on that motion state so that we can actually start to get somewhere. So I'm going to get straight into it. What is the solution? So it's a more predictable and profitable way. And you can do this set strategy with any SaaS or any e-commerce business, and you can de-risk your approach for guaranteed success. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe in several months' time, when I have a validated concept, I want to attract investment, investors love you to de-risk their opportunity. So if they're going to invest in you, they're going to be looking for some reward. And the way to do that is to get really clear and confident in what it is that you're doing. And how do you do that? So I'm going to share with you. It's called ODD. So it stands for Outcome Driven Design, and it's the recipe for success. And it's a 4-layer approach. So I'm going to explain this in a little bit more detail. And I'm just going to get my pen here. Okay, so most people, so when I speak to people or people come to me, they sort of are more focused on visual design. They might say, I've already got hang on one second, don't know what's going on there. I've already got a bit of a design sorted. And I'm like, great, what have you based that on? Now, sometimes people will say, I've based it upon some features around the specific problem that I think that we've got. So here's where it all goes wrong. When you think of a cake, if you don't have the foundation of the cake, it's going to be half-baked. It's not going to be good. You need to put the foundations in place first. Forget visual design. Visual design is not something you should even be thinking about in the short term. User experience design is also not something you need to think about straight away. Because people get really excited, and I get it, and they start ideating. They're coming up with a solution before they've really understood the problem. So outcomes-driven design, or OD for short, is all about creating products that users crave. And it's about understanding the problems. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? So it's a problem-focused strategy. And if we don't focus on the problem first, you're going to be in a product-focused market, and we need to be in a problem-focused market. And what I mean by that is a lot of people define their value proposition, their offering around their product. So they might say something like, come work with me, and we've got the best gym equipment in town, or something like that. Say you're a PT. Nobody wants gym equipment. Nobody, it's a bit of a phase, but wants AI. People want the outcome of that. So what we need to really understand is, what is it the problem that we're solving for, and what are the outcomes that we want? So we're going to have the problems are over here, the outcomes are here, and we've got to take that person from A to B. And to understand the problems that they have, we really need to understand the user. So this, I say, is a step before the user research. So some people say, yeah, we've done loads of research. We've spoken to loads of our customers. I'm the customer. You will never be your customer. You need an outside perspective. There's too much bias when you think you're the customer, and you have too much influence. And we want to create a product around a problem that is underserved in the market. And what I mean by that is, you don't want to try and solve a problem that everybody else is solving. So if I'm a PT, and in my local area and within a 20-mile radius, there's loads of PTs, and say the problem that they were solving was people with diabetes wanting to help them stabilize their blood sugar. So that is a problem and an outcome. If I try to go into that market as well and try to do the same as everybody else, all I'm going to end up doing is trying to compete. And when we try to compete with people, we end up in just a feature war. That tends to what happens. Look at my competitors, look at what they're doing. Oh, we need to do something better. The best thing to do is to find a blue ocean, an area which is untapped. So we need to find a problem space with a new big market opportunity that allows you to differentiate from your competition. Because we don't really want to be competing. We can try to dominate, and we can do that by lowering the cost. We can make it a little bit more effortless for users. We can make it a bit more exciting. We can create a better user experience, those sorts of things. But it's going to be more difficult. So the easier way is to understand what the problem is you're solving, what the outcomes are that you're delivering, and create an irresistible offer that they would feel literally stupid saying no to. So I see many people creating offers at the moment, and They're so boring, they're so samey, and nobody does this piece of work. I have been doing this for 15 years. I check out competition, I check out web design agencies, check out AI companies, software companies, e-commerce agencies. Nobody's doing this. Some companies are doing this, but they're not your typical agency space. They're more from a behavioral science background. So those who deal in behavioral science really understand this analogy of how we've got to get the foundations correct. So when you really understand outcome-driven design, you build this layer that you then build upon. So then once you understand that, you can then look at pain points, because pain points are only a manifestation of a problem. So if you're looking at pain points, but you don't know what the problem is, you're already not going to be very clear, and you're already going to probably be competing. So the next step is to understand your user needs, your pain points, and your goals. So a lot of companies might do this. They might actually do some research. But when you do your research, you need to be understanding what is that thought process that they're going through? How can I build that empathy? And we never ask users what they want. They don't know. So, but what they do know is what problems that they have. And that's why we need to always start with outcome-driven design. Step 3 is then when you've got all this research, you've got your so you've got your base layer, and you've got your user research layer. Then you can look at the experience. How are you going to make this the best experience now? How can you build out this solution? And this typically for a startup would look like an MVP, and also creating those features. But features tend to come near last, whereas problems come first. You're building it around the problem or problems. So when you actually look at outcomes and the problems that people have functional problems, social problems, emotional problems, and consumption problems. And if you want to learn more about that, please ask me for the playbook, because we go into detail on what that is. And the final layer is the visual design. It's what makes it look good. It's what gives it a bit of attraction. It's what makes it give it that zest, that zing. And that's where you think about your brand. You're thinking about how you come across on socials. It's all about that look and that appeal. And this is something that you do. It's a final layer. It's the icing on top of the cake. That's what I always say to people. So I'm just going to explain a little bit more. So the proof just isn't in the pudding, it's in the entire cake. So if you're only doing one of those layers, this could be one of the reasons why 9 out of 10 startups are failing. So without OD, you don't get tangible results. With OD, you get real results. It's very metric driven. Because it's outcome driven, we're actually thinking about what is that tangible metric that our users want. So they don't just want a better night's sleep. They want to have an extra 60 minutes sleep per night on top of what they're getting now. That's a better, more tangible outcome. Without OD, you always get half-baked user research. Even if you're going to user experience experts, agencies, web design companies, they don't fully understand outcome-driven design, so they always miss this layer. With OD, you get this added layer of research for this extra flavor. Without OD, you're making decisions on guesswork, assumptions, and gut feelings. Gut feelings are just never the way forward. I always say you might get lucky a few times, but I'd rather work on data and science because it's more predictable. And again, investors love predictability. Short-term quick wins without OD. So you might get some traction straight away, but if you're looking at long-term success, if you're wanting to surpass those 5 years, really need to put the strategy and the foundations in place now for it to last. Imagine you don't put the foundations in for your home. Within 5 to 10 years, you're going to see cracks appearing, and it might be difficult to repair when it's too late down the line. without odd, again, you don't get any guarantees of market interest. You generally, with a lot of agencies or freelancers that you work with, they'll do the job and then they'll hand it over to you. This is the wrong way to work. What we do is we guarantee user interest. It's so important that we validate what we're doing is going to work, and there's different methodologies to do this. And if we can't do that, we would give you your money back. We're heavily results driven, and it has to drive results for it to be a success. So the context and examples. So I've got some examples here for you. So think about Airbnb. So they address the traveler's desire for authentic, personalized experiences by connecting them with local hosts, enabling guests to immerse themselves in local culture and lifestyle, which traditional hotels couldn't provide. They found a problem. And what did they do when they found that problem? They created a new opportunity. So this allowed them to differentiate. So traditional hospitality companies, they just had like standard accommodation, just hotels, go and stay in a tent, or it's still over the top, this homemade coffee. I think I whisked it a bit too much. Anyway, Airbnb's new opportunity was a new market by connecting travelers with homeowners willing to rent out their spaces, providing unique and personalized lodging experiences. It created a whole new opportunity, a whole new demand. That's so important. When you carve out a new opportunity, it has to be a really big problem where there's a huge demand for that problem to be solved. So if we look at Airbnb and its statistics since 2015, just by doing this alone, you can see how successful Airbnb has become. 349 million in 2023. Growth upon growth up until the pandemic. And they did come through that, which is amazing when you consider the actual value proposition of a company like Airbnb. And once you create a new opportunity, that you then need to create an offer. So this is how you always start a new company: the problem, what's my new opportunity, and then look at my offer. So as an example, Casper is really great example of this, because when it came into the market, it was competing with a lot of other people that were basically offering, come here, buy your mattress online. Come here for a comfy night's sleep. It was the same old. Everybody was competing. You'll get the dominant companies who would try to undercut on price. And Casper created an irresistible offer, which was get America's best reviewed mattress delivered to your door for 120-night trial. So what they did here is they did a risk reversal. So actually, normally when people buy products or services, the risk is always on them. It's always like, I've got to be comfortable with the level of risk, and that's why I need to build that trust with the person who I'm buying from. But what Casper did is said, actually, no, come buy from us, and if you don't like it and you're not comfortable, you get 120 nights, no questions asked, just send it back. And when you do this, you realize you've got to be confident in your product. And when somebody's really confident in what they're selling, it gives you peace of mind. Casper shook a 29 billion mattress industry, and the startup went from 0 to 750 million in less than 4 years. That is the power of a really great offer. So just going to do a bit of a quick recap. The solution is outcome-driven design. You need to start this as your base layer. You then need to work through all 4 layers in depth if you want it to be a success. The playbook gives you everything that you need to know about outcome-driven design. You need a problem, create a new opportunity, and create an offer. And then what we do is we test that offer, and this is what you should do to ensure that you have interest. And we do the 100 people interest guarantee, because we need to have certainty that this offer is going to get traction in the market. And what would happen if it didn't? You just pivot slightly, you tweak, you experiment. And then what you end up with is a really tight, hair blown off offer that literally people would be absolutely crazy to turn down. So if you would like access to the playbook, please let me know.